Welcome to the Groceries Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Jackson. I work with relationship driven professionals and companies who value trust but want more consistency. We use smart systems and AI to remove the busy work so meaningful conversations happen more often and growth feels lighter, not louder. If you believe technology should support relationships, not replace them, you're in the right place. Today's guest is Jared Sawyer. Jared has spent over 20 years in lending, has built his business mostly entirely on trust, referrals, and long-term relationships. He's known for educating clients, staying disciplined when the market shifts, and doing fundamentals at a high level. If you care about consistency and credibility, you'll want to hear this podcast. Jared, welcome to the show today.
Hey, thanks for having me. Thanks for that intro. It's really kind of you.
So let's start big picture. What feels hardest in lending or housing right now?
Uh, I I think that's a two-sided coin. I think the hardest part about lending right now is twofold. It's one, the interest rates in comparison to where they've been and dealing with the perception of those. And then it's also the home values themselves. That's a very difficult part because it puts people in a really hard position to qualify. That may be qualified 5 years ago, but now they don't. And the home value could be the
Yeah.
same, but the rates being higher are make it a lot harder for them to qualify.
Yeah. So tell me, what do you think most borrowers are either confused by or stressed by today?
I think it's an overabundance of knowledge. There was a time when the knowledge was very limited on lending, and you were in the industry with me then too, so you'll understand this. You had to educate people a lot on the mortgage process, and goes back to Quicken Loan days back in 2009, and so there was a whole process you had to take through just to educate people on how the process was going to go, what to expect, explain interest rates and points and closing costs and everything under the sun. And nowadays, for the most part, most consumers outside of first-time home buyers are pretty knowledgeable. And even a lot of the first-time home buyers, I've done a lot of research. Everything's available online. You can Google it. You can go to Gemini. You can go to ChatGPT. You can get any and all information you want to know before you start the process. And I appreciate that a lot. The only downside to that is sometimes an overabundance of knowledge can cause people to freeze. Call it analysis by paralysis, right? There's always that
Mhm.
too much information. And so what I've had to go through is in my approach working with clients is breaking it back down into something bite-sized and tangible and keeping them focused on, hey, here's the process. I know there's all these other things and you're right, those exist, but we're not going to look at those today. We're going to look at just, this is what we're working on. And so it's been kind of a challenge because people, they want to feel smart, they want to feel educated, they want to feel validated. And I'm all for that. I really believe with the mortgage process, you really need to own your end of it as a consumer. But sometimes too much information on a subject matter, if you're not in practice with it, can be a little bit more damaging than I think they realize.
Yeah. So with all the AI out there, information at your fingertips, have you come across like any commonalities that people have, like maybe a falsity on, or they're going to research and this just they may get this information but it's really not like that. It's like something different. Is there any commonality that you're seeing?
Yeah, it's like self-diagnosing like an illness that you have.
Oh.
You might understand your symptoms, and so you do your research. I'm guilty of it too. I go on ChatGPT religiously. And I'd rather than going and spending time waiting 45 minutes in the doctor's office for them to be late, I'd rather spend the time myself, do the research. And if it seems like it's a big deal, maybe I will book the appointment. But if it's not a big deal, then, I'm just going to, figure it out on my own. And that's helpful. It's good. But at the same time, if you're wrong, then it turns into a bigger issue. And the same thing goes with mortgages.
Mm.
If you're using that technology, which I'm all for, AI is a tool, it's just like using a knife. You can use a knife to cut stuff and feed yourself, but you also cut your own hand in the process. That's a problem. So it's always good to have someone that understands the framework of what is going on in the industry, help you and guide you through it. You could research the law all day long, but if you have a pending trial, you want somebody there who knows it, practices it, speaks it, sleeps it, and breathes it, because they're going to be able to take you by the hand, react different than an AI machine would.
Right. So it's was it WebMD? Is that's back before
Yeah,
ChatGPT that
WebMD
everybody went to? The WebMD
quickly learned, yeah,
scenario.
quickly morphed to the ChatGPT doctor. Yeah. You want to make your doctor's head
That's a
spin? Tell
perfect
them, oh, I already
example.
researched this on ChatGPT. Yeah.
That is a perfect example. That makes complete sense. And I think that most people can relate to that. So tell me about how you got into the being a loan officer. You're 22 years in. Like, how did you first get into the business?
Completely by mistake. Never intended on it being a career. So I was 19 years old, still living at home. I was selling used cars for Burge Ford and Mesa, and I had a girlfriend at the time. And unbeknownst to me, my girlfriend's mother was dating a guy named George Gutierrez. George came into the dealership that day to buy like a Ford Expedition. I ended up flipping him to like a Ford Mustang Cobra. And, because I'm a 19-year-old kid, I don't know anything about SUVs, but I know everything about sports cars, and
Right.
just talked his ear off about it. And, we get to the transaction. He's just laughing. He's like, man, I came in for an SUV and you put me in a muscle car. He's like, here's my card. If you ever think about doing mortgages, let me know. And I knew vaguely what a mortgage was, but I wasn't really interested. I'm like, yeah, okay, thanks. And that night, the very same night, I went over to my girlfriend's house for a barbecue, and the Mustang's parked in the driveway. And I'm like, what? Like 4 hours ago, I just sold this car. There's no way. Like, this is so weird. So I walk in and George is like, hey, oh my gosh, you're that Jared. I'm like, you're that George. So, had a yeah, had a couple burgers and got to talking. And he's like, listen, he's like selling used cars and selling mortgages and selling shoes and selling this, thing, other thing, that it's all about people. You do really great with people. I think you'd be really good at this. And I was like, okay, cool. 19, whatever. And this is Wild West days of mortgages. You didn't need a license, you needed any education, you didn't need anything. You just needed to have a pulse
Right.
and be able to speak English properly, and you could get a job. So went to go work with George, learned the ins and outs really quickly. It's back when you would actually stack paper files. You'd punch the 3-ring holes and put them in binders. You would physically drive files to an operational center and drop them off. You would meet with appraisers. You would talk to multiple appraisers to find who would give you the best deal. You would also meet with all sorts of people in the industry. And so I quickly learned it's really not about mortgages. It's really about networking. It's about people. And then in addition
Mhm.
to that, I learned how to use a mortgage calculator, which I still have in my drawer. It doesn't work anymore and I don't need it. But back then, that was your lifeblood. You took that everywhere you went. You had to do calculations on the spot. And the industry's changed so much now where everything's pretty much remote. I mean, I have an office here in Scottsdale and people are welcome to come and meet me face to face. But I would say really since COVID, I've met with 2 people in person in this business. And as far as clients go, prior to that, though, back in those times, you were going to people's houses, you were sitting down at the kitchen table, you were signing mortgage documents there. So it was a lot different of a vibe. But, I got into it, and my first experience is crazy. It's like something out of a movie. George was not, we'll just say, the most ethical person in the industry. Yeah, he was great to me, never did me wrong. But, there was some unscrupulous activity unbeknownst to me at the time, and our office got shut down, and everyone had to report to corporate, and there was a bunch of legal stuff that happened, and that was I kind of freaked me out, so I got out of it for a while. Went to work for a bank, worked for WAMU for a bit, and still kind of ended up in mortgages. I was a personal banker there, and just stayed doing it just because I understood it. But it was back then you didn't need a license. So it was just part of the process. Hey, your checking and savings account looks good. How's your mortgage? And you just would go right into it.
Yeah.
Got recruited
Yeah.
by Quicken Loan, and then the career really took off from there. You want to learn whether you're good at something, go sit in a Wolf of Wall Street boiler room environment and see how well you do. But it
Right.
was crazy. So that's kind of my start there was really the broker side of things, learning that. And then Quicken Loans really taught a lot of the sales process to go with it. And, just tried some other stuff along the way for sure, but I've always kind of gotten sucked back into the mortgage vortex. And, it took a while to understand why I was doing what I was doing, but I would say it's really about people solving complex situations that keeping people up at night. And then when you
Yeah.
run into a roadblock, which inevitably happens, being able to know the moves, know the plays to run. Okay, here's what we do in this scenario. Here's how we do this. So it's been a very
So,
challenging and stressful career, but it's also been very rewarding.
yeah. So tell me, what did you learn early on that still shapes how you work today?
I fortunately had a really good mentor when I was working with George. It was his right-hand guy. And like any 19-year-old kid, I didn't take it serious. Just didn't.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know how I could. Life perspective at that point at 19 is a lot different than it is now at 42. And you just you just don't know what you don't know. You're a young punk kid, but you're also dealing with something very
Hmm.
sensitive with people. And I wasn't taking it serious. He went on the first few calls that I had. We call them calls where you'd go sit in with a client. And I just being a smartass and just goofing around and not really taking it serious and not really engaging. I was more concerned about getting the deal done than I was listening actively to what the client was telling me or what was important. And, I remember leaving a couple of those conversations and, he said to me, his name is Roger, and he looked at me and he goes, Jared, you can have all the charisma in the world, but if you're an asshole, no one's gonna care. He's like, these are people's homes. This is important to them and their families, and you're not listening to them. And so he put me on not a we didn't have pips back then, but he kind of like grounded me and was like, you're not writing any more deals until you've sat in with me for this whole month. I want you to see how this is supposed to go. And Roger was great. He's really, really taught me like the value behind what we were doing. And so that changed my perspective quite a bit because I quickly saw the reaction, the relationships they were having, and it changed my perspective quite a bit. So I sharpened up really fast and saw pretty good results.
Yeah. So was that, would you say that was your aha moment on when you start taking this seriously and how to show up for clients, or was there a different event?
There's been multiple points along my career that have really just blown my mind, if you will, where
Yeah.
it's been a realization of the reality behind what you're doing. So often than not, when you get into a career or a job, a lot of it's very mundane at times. You're dealing with mortgages, net calculations, debt, numbers. It can be really dry. Back then was an aha moment in that position. There have been multiple. I could probably talk for 5, 6 hours on the experiences that I had, but one really key one happened in, I would say, 2016. And it was a good friend of mine and he comes to me and he's just broken. I don't know how else to say it. He's like, I need to get my life together. I have a family. I need to get a house. And he was just struggling. Pulled his credit, he owed everyone money and hadn't paid anybody. And so we came up with a game plan and we focused and we got everything ready to go. Got his credit score where he needed to be, figured out how to document his income properly. He was self-employed. And back then we didn't have non-QM to really work with. It was very stringent. So we had to get really, really focused on, hey, here's what the income actually looks like and calling some favor from some underwriters to maybe help us, you know, figure out the right path. And we got it. We got it done. He got into the house, moved in, and showing up to the signing and just seeing the whole family there, all four of his kids and his wife and him, and just the gratitude, it was something else, and that really drove the point home for me. I think probably more than any other time I can think of, just because you realize that you had a profound impact on somebody's life in a very positive way to help them accomplish a goal or a dream that they have that otherwise, if you hadn't spent the time with them, if you hadn't taken those extra days and hours working with them, who knows? Because unfortunately, a lot of loan officers won't put in the time and the work if somebody doesn't qualify. They're looking for their next meal, and I get it. We all got to eat, but those people that are have a passion and a desire to do this, they will find a way if you guide them, and they will get to where they want to be if you show them how to do it. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was a big one for sure.
So I want to kind of dive into what you kind of mentioned during that story. And because I love that story, because I think most people kind of don't understand everything that you do for them. I think a lot of people think, oh, my loan officer, he just pulls my credit and, looks at my income and then picks a a mortgage product and that's it. There's you just described several events in there that are so much bigger than that. So would you I'd love for you to expound a little bit more on the process that you take people through that might feel a little overwhelming to them or things that they don't even realize.
Yeah, so you're getting into the weeds a lot with people, and you should be. You should be. I mean, you're dealing with the largest financial transaction 99% of your clients are ever going to have in their entire life. It is a big number. It's a lot of money. It's very stressful. There's a lot of anxiety involved, and so you have to treat it as such. You can't use big industry lingo with them. You can't put them in a position where they feel inferior to you. You need to talk to them like you're talking to a friend and you're having beers. That's the best way I can say it, because they need to know that they can trust you. They don't need to know everything you know. That's your job, but they also need to know
Hmm.
that you have a handle on things, that you're in control of the situation. So your job as a loan officer isn't just, I'm going to pull credit, I'm going to fill out an application, I'm going to, figure out the best program, and then I'm going to lock the rate and sell the client on it. That's part of it. It's very linear, but the abstract is really where the value comes. So
Hmm.
you need to be everything from a marriage counselor at times to a family counselor to a shoulder to cry on to a person that's going to take a text or a call at 10:30 at night to someone that's willing to respond to a text message on Sunday after church to someone that is willing to go drive and pick up documents even though that might not be convenient for you. I have gone and I've
Hmm.
taken pictures of homes because the real estate agent wasn't able to do it. I have gone and I have babysat before. Everything under the sun. You are engaging in this person's life. You are coming alongside of them and you're being a friend and you're being a confidant and a partner. And it's really, really important to understand that. Twofold to that. One, it's the right way to do things with people. This business is all about relationships with your clients, your referral partners, but more so than that, in any good relationship, you're adding value, you're being selfless, you're there to help, and you're giving genuine compassion. Some of the trickiest ones are when I'm handling a divorce. They have to cash out their current
Hmm.
value in their home, and then the
Hmm.
spouse needs to buy another home. And so I'm doing two transactions at once, and I'm dealing with the same people, completely different sides of the fence, and dealing with two different lawyers in the process. And there's almost a conflict there, but at the same time, they're two different transactions and one kind of feeds the other. It's hard
Hmm.
because you have to show empathy and try not to side with the husband or the wife because they will tell you everything. There's a point where they're being really professional and proper, and then one day it just clicks and they will tell you more than you ever wanted to know about everything. And you
Yeah.
just kind of got to take it. But what I will say is that pays dividends years down the road. I get Christmas cards from my clients. I get phone calls randomly. And repeat business is the name of the game. I don't buy leads. I don't work on leads. I work on referrals. And so the only way you're going to build a really good network of business is if you show that you care and you're genuine and you show up for your clients and you're there as a person. I mean, we go over to
Hmm.
clients' houses for dinner. We do a lot of stuff, and it's more of a friendship than it really is a, hey, I want to get another refi out of you. It's you build this network and you build these people around you, and for the most part, they're really good people, so you enjoy it. But yeah,
Yeah.
you have to wear a lot of different hats. You have to know mortgage law. You really need to know the inner workings of everything. You need to be quick on your feet. You need to be super creative when the time calls for it. And then you need to take all this knowledge and everything you do, and you need to break it down to a third grade level and speak it to it like you would your own kid so that they can digest it, understand, and have an adult awakening moment or partner with you to figure it out. And I really try hard when there's a problem in the mortgage file, because that comes up all the time, to bring the client into it, not to stress them out, but this is a panel discussion, right? And not everyone wants to do that. Some people just want me to take it and run with it, and that's fine. But I really want people to own the situation. Like, hey, you told me you made 150 grand a year. Turns out it's more like 90. That's a problem because you want to buy a $2 million home. What are we going to do? Oh, well, my dad's co-signing with me. Okay, you should have told me that to come in. Let's get your dad on the phone, blah, blah, blah. Right. So a lot of
Right.
different hats.
Right. Yeah. So you said so many great stories. I would like to know, what do most clients say they appreciate most about working with you?
I treat them like family, and that usually comes out in most of the surveys. Just be short and sweet about it. And, I talk to them like they're people because they are, and treat them like gold because they are. They've entrusted me with
Yeah.
something that's very precious and very difficult, and I respect it and value it. But I also make them feel like if they need to call me and vent about their day and has nothing to do with mortgages, let's have at it, man. What happened? So I play counselor
Right.
a lot, a lot. Yeah.
Right. Well, I love this conversation. I know a lot of people think mortgages can be boring, mundane, but they're really not, and I love that you're sharing your story. I mean, it's fascinating. I just have a couple more questions before we finish up, though. So I would like to know, what is the best piece of business advice you have ever received?
This one is a really hard one, especially in my business, because, for those that don't know, we get paid and we get compensated when the transaction is over with. So when everything
Hmm.
closes and everything's done, we get paid a commission. And so with that commission, we that's how we make our living. We don't get a salary. We don't get, bonuses. It doesn't work like that. And so there's an old saying, and I know we learned it when we were at Quicken, but a lot of it has to do with just taking that out of the forefront. Numbers and money follow, they don't lead. And it's such a simple phrase, but it's so important because there are so many variables when you start a process that can throw it for a loop. You cannot count on that money, and you cannot pretend like it's just going to be there. And so it's really difficult. You can't look at it at people from a dollar figure because it's going to come across that way also. And so it's a really
Hmm.
critical piece to the puzzle. So the best advice I've ever gotten is really, hey, you you cannot put your wallet before your client. Like, these people, treat them like people. They're not dollar signs. That's something Roger actually taught me early
Hmm.
on before I knew the phrase, from Quicken Loans, Quickenisms, and all those fun things. But yeah, best advice I received in this business was really, do not put your wallet in front of the client. You got to focus on the people. The money will follow, but
Yeah.
the people come.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of goes along with what I think of when I think of Zig Ziglar. If you help enough people get what they want, you'll have everything you want.
Exactly. You get enough people what they want, you'll get everything you want. Exactly. Yep. It's a
For
good one
sure.
from Zig. He's
And
got some
then,
good stuff.
second to last question is, if you had a chance to talk to your 15-year-old self today, what would you tell him
Jeez.
if he would listen?
Yeah, if he would listen is a great way to frame that. So 15-year-old Jared at Hamilton High School. I'd say a few things. I would tell him, I'd say, hey, the world is not what you think it is inside of the four walls of this high school. And buckle up. Not everyone's going to be here that you think is going to be here. Get serious faster than you want. If I could go back and I knew what was coming, from ages 15 to 20, 22, I would have really, really focused probably a little bit harder on school. Not so much the social aspect of it. I love the social aspect of it, but should have focused a little bit harder on school, and probably gotten a
Mhm.
little bit more serious about entrepreneurship right away.
Yeah. Awesome. So, last thing is, please tell everybody how they can get a hold of you if they have questions on a mortgage, if they just want to know if they're looking at buying a home, how can they reach out to you?
Yeah. So, real quick sales pitch for you. Everybody loves the sales pitch from a salesman. So,
Let's hear it.
um, I do a multitude of types of mortgages, everything from consumer, so FHA, VA, conventional, jumbo, blah, 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 all the way to non QM, meaning if you don't fit the box on one of those, you'll fit another box. And I have a box for everybody. And then in addition to that, I work with a lot with the commercial investors who are buying rental properties, multiple family units, so on and so forth. So I have a really good branch here at Gainey Ranch. We service everybody. Would love a chance to talk and meet with you. My number's 503 826 6737. You can text that as well. It's the fastest way to get a hold of me, and we can go from there.
Awesome. And we'll have your phone number and your email address down in the show notes below. So just click down there and you can get a hold of Jared. So, Jared, thanks so much for being on today.
Thank you for having me, man. It's been great.